Hey guys, how you doing? In this video, I'm going to show you guys how to make a graph using the data sample that we have from our work survey. So this is going to be a quick tutorial on basically how to make the graph. Now, I'm going to predominantly show you guys this through a Mac, and the process for a Mac is different slightly from the process for a Windows computer. So you just need to make sure you understand the differences, and the Windows computer will probably have to look around a little bit more to find the different tabs and things like that. Okay. So let's just jump straight into it. Okay, so what we've got here is the data sample. Now, what I've done is I've collected all of your work surveys together, and I've broken up each question and recorded down the answers for each one. Yeah, and I put them down in these tabs down the bottom. So these tabs down the bottom tell you which questions were written in your survey. Okay, and the question title is at the top, and then what I've got is the category of answers that people have provided, and also how many counts for each answer. So these are the number of people that have actually ticked this box or written this particular answer. Okay, so let me give you an example. So this is question 1. What main industry do you work in? And tick only 1. Right? And so in this particular question, people had to tick which industry their job was in, and you've got the list of answers that are available that we've provided on the survey here that ranges from full-time home duties, which is basically being a mum, all the way down to transportation, distribution, and logistics. You can see there 3 people ticked full-time home duties. So within the Mount Evelyn community, of all the people we surveyed in Cycle B, there were 3 people who identified themselves as mums or full-time home duties, 3 for agriculture, and you can see there education training is 6. Your health sciences, like nurses, doctors, and things like that, are 7, and that seems to be the highest number. Okay. Now, when you are making a graph isn't particularly hard to make. What you can do is one of the simplest graphs that we're going to make is actually a column graph, right? And so to get to the column graph, it sits in the charts tab, and you can see the column graph there. And there's a whole bunch of different graphs that you can make. Now, the quick way to do this is actually if you first select your data first. Yeah. So when you get to your data set, you select it and you actually highlight both the category and the count, and you basically select the entire data set. Okay. Now you include the title, because that title is going to appear in our axes titles that we're going to look at later on. So I'm going to select this graph. I'm going to go to my columns, and I'm just going to use a simple clustered column. Okay, so this is the most easiest of the columns that you can do. And if I press that button, you can see there that my graph now generates a count of all of my different categories. You can see there's the count, and there are all of my particular home duties. Now, what I'm going to do there, you can see there, that's the graph, and you can see that's actually been highlighted. Now, I can actually go around and change this number, and it will change it in real time. So for example, you can see full-time home duties is sitting at 3. If I go into my data set and I change that to 5, you can see it actually updates right there, and it increases it to 5. So I'm not going to do that. I'm going to bring it to 3 because I don't want to muck around with my data. However, I do want this to show perhaps in height order. So I'm actually going to go to the drop-down box, and I'm going to click in descending order. Okay, so I'm going to go in descending order, and there you have it. It's been rearranged to show me the highest counts all the way down to my lowest. So you can see very clearly from the graph, which I'm going to make larger for you, the count of health sciences being the highest and working your way across. Now, that's my graph. There's a few things that I need to do. For example, this graph is not really complete. I need to first of all change the titles. So the title is not going to be count. The title is going to be the main industry that people are going to work in. So I would click main industry of work with capital W. Oops. That's like mistake number 3. Oops. What's going on? There you go. Main industry of work. Yeah. Now, there's a few things you can do now. The first is I need to actually add a axis title along here. Okay, I probably don't need to add one down here, and I'm also going to get rid of this as well. So I'm going to get rid of this little thing first because you don't really need it. I'm also going to get rid of these lines because I also find them a little bit useless. You can keep your lines, and that probably doesn't make much of a difference. Now, we're going to add our titles. Okay, so the titles is the next thing we're going to add. So I'm going to go to chart layout, and you can see there chart title is all listed all along there. Okay, so I'm going to add axes titles, which is what's going to go here and down here. So I'm going to go axes title. Do I want horizontal one? Yep, I do. I want the title below the axes, and I click that and it will come up with a title, and I'm going to write industry as my title for the first question. Okay, and then I'm going to do the same thing with the vertical title that's rotated on the side, and I'm going to put that as number of people. Yeah, so now we can have an accurate representation of that. Okay, so now you've got a graph that shows all the major industries that cuts across there, and also the count of people within each of those industries. So we can see, based on the results of this graph, that the majority of people are in the health science department. Yeah. Now from that, we can then determine what sort of recommendations we can give to the people based on this in terms of products, goods, and services that will be beneficial to our community, right? And so that is a graph that clearly shows this particular data really well there, okay? So you can do the same thing with each of your data points. So what we want you guys to do is we want you to produce 2 graphs for your task, and these graphs are then going to inform your recommendations that you're going to give to a for-profit organization and a not-for-profit organization. Okay, so there you have it. That's how you make graphs. Now, the last thing I'll just mention is that the Windows computers are slightly different. Okay, so in general, the charts section will be probably under the Insert tab on a Windows computer, and you have to go to a column, and then you can do a column graph as per normal. But when you need to add your titles, there's no chart layout tab for you to do. Instead, there is going to be a add chart element little button that's probably found somewhere in this corner or in this corner of the charts tab or the insert tab, and you go to click add chart element, and you'll be able to then add your axes titles from there. Okay, so hopefully that'll help out. If you have any questions, ask your teacher and they'll be able to run through that with you. Okay, cheers guys.